Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Well, I was just going to do a quick video on a sort of unexpected capture I made the other night while doing a time lapse. Now, I know I've gone on about how bad the weather's been in the last few videos, and unfortunately that continues. We've had a nice January, but February and March have absolutely sucked as far as the weather's concerned. We've had a lot of tropical storms coming down to us, bringing a lot of wind and a lot of rain. And I recently posted on the community page about quite a big storm, I think they call them a weather bomb, that came down about 3 days ago and caused a lot of flooding. There were lots of lightning strikes, etc. Anyway, it would be last night, I was sort of checking the sky, expecting not to be able to image, and I noticed that directly above the sky was clear, but out sort of towards the horizon across Bream Bay and over the Hen and Chicken Islands, there was a thunderstorm going, and I wasn't sure whether it was going to come towards us or where it was going to head, but I thought, what the heck, I might as well get the Redcat, drag it out onto the deck and do some imaging. Risky, I know, but you know, desperate times call for desperate action. So I'm just hoping I wasn't going to get my gear struck by lightning. Anyway, fortunately the clouds did stay away from where I was. And I thought, or at least for a couple of hours anyway, and I thought, gosh, I might as well just do a time lapse. I can just put the camera just out on the deck, capture the telescope off to one side doing the imaging, and in the distance capture the thunderstorm. And so I just set it going on 10-second exposures. I did use ISO 10,000 because it was pretty dark up here, and I was using my Sony a7 III and the Samyang, it's a 20mm f1.8 lens, so lots of light gathering ability there. So I just let it shoot away, you know, repeatedly with very little, I think about like a 1 second break in between. And the next day I got the hundreds of images there, and I went into Photoshop and I made a time lapse, and which I will show you now. And so I was happy with that. And of course I was concentrating on looking at, you know, what was happening with the telescope in the time lapse, what was happening with the thunder and lightning, well, not the thunder, you can't hear the thunder, but the lightning anyway in the clouds, and yeah, that was fine. So then my wife asked me, could I find a nice, just one of the frames or one of the images that showed a nice flash of lightning in the clouds and everything, because she just wanted to send it to a friend and some relatives who know Langs Beach really well. So I was searching through them and trying to find one, and then to my surprise I spotted a few frames with something interesting, which I have to say I never heard about last year for the first time. But as soon as I saw them in the frames, and having seen multiple pictures of these in the past, well, in the last year I should say, I instantly knew what they were. So let me show you what I found. Okay, so I've got the video set up here of the time lapse, and just for orientation, here's a CM60 with a Redcat on top, and I've just got that sitting on the deck. And we're looking across Bream Bay, and here are the thunder clouds, and you can see a lightning flash going on at the moment. Now, importantly, the sky above was clear, which is why I was imaging with the Redcat. I figured that the storm was moving away rather than towards me, so I wasn't about to get my gear fried. But anyway, I was actually imaging in a southerly direction where the skies were nice and clear. Now, this is Whangarei Heads, and this little light here is actually a boat waiting to go into port, I think a container ship. And then we've got some white lights here, and these are on the Hen and Chicken Islands, and these are lighthouses. Now, if I just let it run, you can see it go through. And you'll see a few satellites sort of making their way across the sky, some lightning flashes, and yeah, the clouds moving. It was all very nice, and you can see it getting lighter and lighter, and that was because the moon was starting to rise and spoil the party. And then I come in with my head torch on and clear everything up. So I was really happy with that. And So as I said, my wife said, can you find me a nice picture with a nice lightning flash, so she could send to a friend. So I thought, okay, I'll have a look through all the individual images. I actually didn't scroll through the time lapse like this. I was actually going through the individual images, and I was going, oh yeah, here's a few. There's some flashes here. That's quite nice. You know, that one's okay. And then I came to this one, and I thought, oh yeah, it's a good, nice flash of lightning there. That'll be quite nice, and you can see the bay and all that kind of stuff. And then I noticed there was something red and sort of trident shaped up in the sky, and if it hadn't been for the fact that I had seen one of these in a Facebook page about a year ago, I probably would have thought it was an artifact, but I instantly looked at it and thought, oh seriously, have I really captured one of these objects? And so I was quite excited, and thought I really need to go through and have a look at the rest of the time lapse and see if there were any more of these to confirm that in fact this was an actual phenomenon and not an artifact of the camera. So I'm just going to load up here another little video I've done where I've actually captured the segments, or cut it up into the 3 segments where the 3 brightest of these objects appear. So here's the first one I just showed you, and then you can see the trident shaped sort of thing there. And if we move along further with another lightning flash, and as you can see these only occur with a lightning flash, up there's another branch, sort of tendril red looking object. And then if we move along further later in the time lapse, and we get to, if I can find it carefully, and there it is there. And this is a lot dimmer, the flash of lightning, because the storm was moving away, but there's now seemed to be sort of several sort of tendrils hanging down here of red. So yeah, I was pretty excited about what I might have found. So look, I'll bring them up into, I processed each of these images. So you can see this is the third one I showed you with the nice sort of red branch tendrils. And this is the second one I showed, I think the last one I showed you, and you can see there's branches of red hanging down. If we just zoom in a bit, there you can see there's multiple little sort of tendrils coming down, and this one actually looks like it's sort of thick at the top and branches out at the bottom. And that's the first one I showed that looked a bit like a trident. So basically I recognised that these were a thing called sprites. As I said, hadn't heard of them until the year before, and I'm glad I had, because yeah, they were a chance finding in a time lapse where the lightning strikes, and to actually capture these was fantastic. They always occur above a flash, and they're high up in the sky, well above the clouds. So you do have to be at a distance from the thunderstorm so you can see clear sky above. So yeah, that was pretty exciting. So I guess the next thing is to tell you what exactly are sprites. So I'll try and explain it as best I can. Alright, so I'm not an expert on sprites, so as I said, I only just learned about them last year, but I'll try and explain things as best as I can. So sprites, or red sprites, are basically large-scale electrical discharges that occur high up above the thunderstorms or above the cumulonimbus clouds, and give rise to these varying shapes and somewhat variation in colour. Now, they were probably first reported in 1730, but actually they weren't photographed until 1989, and it was sort of by accident, and I think it was a video that picked them up. And since then I understand the easiest way to pick them up is to video the sky, rather than take still shots, because you could easily miss them. I was particularly lucky because doing a time lapse, I was doing these 10-second exposures and then getting the camera to almost immediately restart another one. So it was picking up quite a few lightning strikes, and as a result picked up these sprites. So here's what a lot of them look like. This is probably more the typical sort of sprite, and you can see that sort of branching outward appearance like I had that looked a bit like a trident in one, but one looked very much like this as well. And then there was another one that was sort of a few sort of strands or tendrils hanging down. Some of them will have a blue jet, a sort of a blue sort of tendril, sort of say hanging down below, and then, or sort of a, maybe more sort of purpley blue, and then there are these things called trolls where the blue extends further down towards the clouds. You can have a giant jet, you can have a secondary giant jet, you can have these things called halos, and these things called elves. And there's also a negative sprite. This here, the ghost, now this has only recently been described because it was noted when they were videoed that after the redness of the sprite faded, they were left with a sort of green fleeting glow. So these things are very quick, they last a few milliseconds, sorry. And the green was left behind, and at first they wondered if it was a problem with the camera, but actually they've discovered since, no, this is a definite phenomenon. And they think that it seems to be related with the biggest sprites, and they think that perhaps it happens high up, and it's actually where the oxygen atoms very high up at altitude get excited and give you this sort of greeny look, a bit like an aurora. So yeah, these things occur well above the clouds. So you can see that the thunderstorms here are like 10-20 kilometers, but these are occurring in the sort of 50 to 90 kilometer range, which is why you need to be at a distance from the thunderstorm so that you can see the thunderstorm but also see a dark clear sky above. And those were the conditions that I fortunately had. That was until the storm started to go away and also the moon came up. Now they seem to occur as a result, if I just close this one down, they seem to occur as a result of a positive cloud to ground flash with what they call spider lightning, so some horizontal lightning occurs. And then they, as far as I understand it, and I don't know all the details about it, but it's thought to result from sort of clusters of small balls of ionization that are launched at an altitude of about sort of 80 kilometers and then move downward at speeds at around, it said, 10% the speed of light. And then later they're followed by a separate upward moving lot of balls of ionization. So some of these can be rather large. They can be 50 kilometers across actually, and some of these bigger ones that look like this have been described as jellyfish, because they resemble jellyfish with these sort of tendrily things hanging down. So they are extremely fleeting, and that's why I didn't notice them originally. I just was only going through each image one after the other, fortunately, because I probably wouldn't have done that. I mean, since then I have you look at the video and you can see them flash up on screen with the lightning flashes, but I'm not sure if I'd have quite noticed them. I certainly watched the video several times and yeah, didn't realize that they were there until I saw the individual images. So yeah, sprites, that was something I never actually expected that I would ever image. And as I said, only just knew about them very, very recently. If I just move in, it's probably hard to tell, but if you have a look, there is a sort of a lighter broad area of red up here, and then these sort of parts of the red coming down. So, very much, as soon as I saw it, just struck me as definitely this must be sprites. The sprites, there are bigger sprites that have been obviously imaged in other places like America and Australia, but in New Zealand not many people have imaged them, so this was a bit of a treat to find, to be honest. Right, so that was a quick run through about sprites, and didn't actually do the time lapse with the intention of capturing them because I'd sort of kind of forgotten about it, and just thought that I would set up the camera for a nice time lapse with a thunderstorm in the distance while I'm imaging with the Redcat. Now I will put a link in the description below to another video that I was put onto by someone else who's captured sprites, and it's the video that goes on a little bit more detail about how they think they're formed, and it's by the people who actually captured that little ghost for the first time, which is a little green glow at the top, and so they were really chuffed to find something new actually in these sprites. So yeah, that'll be in the description below. I was fortunate enough to have the perfect conditions, with the storm well in the distance, and perfectly clear sky above, and no moon, well, at least for the start of it anyway, hence why the camera was able to pick them up. Now ideally probably you're better to video them, although you know, if your thunderstorm's not producing a lot of lightning strikes over a long period of time, you could end up using up your memory quite quickly. I guess I was lucky enough that I was doing 10-second exposures and just getting the camera to go straight back in to do another 10, so there wasn't much of a gap in between, which allowed me to capture, actually I think in total, 5 of these sprite events above a lightning flash. So yeah, quite a treat to find when going through, and quite a surprise actually, and never imagined that I'd be able to capture these things called sprites. So next time there is a thunderstorm, I might just get the camera out again and see if I can capture some more. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, consider giving it a like, and if you're new to the channel, maybe think about subscribing, that would be great. And hopefully the next video I'll be actually doing something I've imaged, not on captured by accident on a time lapse, if the weather allows. So until the next time, clear skies.